Several centuries ago, in a sun-scorched land called Canaan, there lived a young boy whose destiny was whispered by the stars long before his first breath. His name was Joseph, son of Jacob, grandson of Isaac, descendant of Abraham, a boy of 17 with eyes bright as dawn and a heart pure as morning dew. In the tents of Jacob, among flocks and fields, laughter and labor, Joseph was different. He was not the strongest, nor the eldest, yet something about him drew attention, both the favor of heaven and the envy of men. His father, Jacob, loved him more than all his sons. Perhaps because Joseph reminded him of Rachel, his beloved wife who had passed too soon. Or perhaps because in Joseph's presence, Jacob saw the reflection of his own youth, bold, hopeful, and full of dreams. As a sign of his affection, Jacob gave Joseph a robe of many colors, a masterpiece of woven threads, each hue shimmering under the Canaan sun. It was not just a garment, it was a crown of love. But to his brothers, it was an offense, a constant reminder that Joseph was the chosen one. And so, where love grew in one heart, bitterness festered in 10 others. One night, as moonlight bathed the tents in silver, Joseph's mind was taken beyond the realm of sleep. He saw a dream, vivid, radiant, divine. He saw himself and his brothers binding sheaves in the field. And behold, his sheaf stood upright, while theirs gathered around and bowed before it. He awoke breathless, his heart pounding with wonder. The next morning, as the family gathered, Joseph spoke with excitement. "Brothers," he said, his eyes glowing, "listen to this dream I had." But before he could finish, laughter and sneers filled the air. "So you mean to rule over us?" one mocked. "Will we bow before you, little dreamer?" another said. Yet Joseph's spirit remained unshaken. Days later, another dream came. This time, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowed before him. When he shared it, even his father was troubled. Jacob rebuked him gently, saying, "Shall I, your mother, and your brothers bow before you?" But deep down, Jacob kept the matter in his heart, wondering what these visions might mean. And as dreams stirred divine purpose, they also stirred human hatred. The morning the betrayal took form began like any other. The sky stretched wide and blue over Canaan's hills. The wind carried the scent of sheep and wild grass. Jacob called Joseph. "Go, my son," he said. "See how your brothers fare in Shechem, and bring word back to me." Joseph obeyed, wrapping his colorful robe around him, that robe of love that would soon be stained by betrayal. He walked miles under the burning sun, searching until he found them in Dothan. But when his brothers saw him from afar, their hatred spoke before their hearts could reason. "Here comes that dreamer," one hissed. "Let's kill him," another said. "Then we'll see what becomes of his dreams." But Reuben, the eldest, pleaded, "Shed no blood. Throw him into this pit in the wilderness, but do not harm him." He said this secretly, hoping to rescue Joseph later. When Joseph reached them, smiling and unsuspecting, they seized him. His robe, that symbol of his father's love, was torn away. They dragged him to a dry pit and cast him in. The sound of his cry echoed through the rocks, but their hearts were hardened. And as they sat to eat, a caravan of Ishmaelite merchants approached from Gilead, their camels loaded with spices and balm bound for Egypt. Then Judah spoke, his words cold, practical, and cunning. "What profit is it if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let's sell him to these Ishmaelites." And so, for 20 pieces of silver, they sold their brother, the dreamer, into slavery. They watched as the merchants led him away, the boy's wrists bound, his steps trembling, his robe left behind, stained with goat's blood to deceive their father. And Jacob wept for many days, crying, "Oh, my son Joseph is torn to pieces." But Joseph lived. The dreamer was not dead, only planted, like a seed buried in the soil of destiny. The winds of the desert carried Joseph to Egypt, a land of golden temples, towering statues, and the endless hum of servants and soldiers. He was sold to Potiphar, captain of Pharaoh's guard. But though stripped of his freedom, Joseph was never stripped of his faith. He served with diligence, his spirit radiant even in hardship. And soon Potiphar noticed. He saw that everything Joseph touched prospered, for the Lord was with him. Joseph rose in rank, entrusted with all that Potiphar owned. The once sold slave now commanded servants and managed the affairs of one of Egypt's most powerful men. But as favor increased, so did temptation. Potiphar's wife, a woman of beauty and arrogance, set her eyes on Joseph. "Lie with me," she whispered one day when they were alone. But Joseph refused. "How can I do this great wickedness," he said, "and sin against God?" Day after day she pursued him, and day after day he resisted, until one afternoon she seized him by his garment, and he fled, leaving it in her hands. Humiliated and enraged, she twisted the story, crying out that Joseph had tried to violate her. When Potiphar heard, fury burned within him. And though perhaps he doubted his wife's tale, he cast Joseph into Pharaoh's prison, a place of chains and shadows. But the Lord was still with Joseph. Within the dark walls of that prison, where cries of despair filled the air, Joseph's spirit shone brighter than ever. He served faithfully, and soon, the keeper of the prison entrusted him with all things, just as Potiphar had done. Even in chains, Joseph was free. Then came two new prisoners, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker of Pharaoh. Both had displeased the king. One night, each dreamed a dream that troubled them deeply. Seeing their faces downcast, Joseph asked, "Why are you so sad today?" "We have dreamed a dream," they said, "and there is no one to interpret it." And Joseph replied, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me, I pray you." The cupbearer spoke first, and Joseph listened intently. Then he said, "In 3 days, Pharaoh will restore you to your office." Encouraged, the baker told his dream, but Joseph's eyes saddened. "In 3 days," he said softly, "Pharaoh will lift off your head." And it came to pass exactly as he said. Before the cupbearer left, Joseph pleaded, "Remember me when it is well with you. Speak of me to Pharaoh." But days turned to weeks, weeks to months, and the cupbearer forgot. Still, Joseph waited, patient, steadfast, trusting that what God begins, he always completes. 2 years passed. Then one night, Pharaoh himself dreamed a dream that none could interpret. He saw 7 fat cows grazing by the river, followed by 7 thin cows that devoured them. Then 7 full ears of grain grew, followed by 7 scorched ears that consumed the healthy ones. Pharaoh awoke troubled, and the magicians and wise men of Egypt stood speechless. Then the cupbearer remembered. "There is a man," he said, "in the prison, a Hebrew, who interprets dreams." Pharaoh commanded, "Bring him to me." They brought Joseph forth, shaved, robed, and presented him before the throne of Egypt. Pharaoh said, "I have dreamed a dream, and none can interpret it. I have heard it said that you can understand dreams." Joseph bowed and answered, "It is not in me, O king. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace." And Joseph interpreted the dream. The 7 good cows and ears are 7 years of plenty. The 7 thin ones are 7 years of famine. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. He then counseled Pharaoh wisely. "Let Pharaoh appoint a wise man over Egypt to store grain during the years of abundance, so that the land may survive the famine." Pharaoh was astonished. "Can we find such a man in whom is the Spirit of God?" And he said to Joseph, "Since God has shown you all this, there is none so wise as you. You shall be over my house. Only in the throne will I be greater than you." From prisoner to prime minister, Joseph was exalted. He was given royal robes, a golden chain, and the name Zaphanath-Paneah, the revealer of secrets. And as the famine spread through the earth, nations came to Egypt for food, even those from distant Canaan. When Joseph's brothers arrived in Egypt to buy grain, they bowed before him, just as the dreams had foretold. But they did not recognize the ruler before them, for he was clothed in splendor and spoke through interpreters. Joseph's heart trembled at the sight of them, the very men who had sold him years ago. He tested them, accused them of being spies, and demanded they bring Benjamin, the youngest, to prove their honesty. When they returned with Benjamin, Joseph could contain himself no longer. He ordered the servants to leave the room. And when they were alone, he wept aloud. Then he said in their own tongue, "I am Joseph. Does my father yet live?" They stood frozen, speechless, trembling. But Joseph stepped forward, tears streaming down his face, saying, "Do not be grieved or angry with yourselves, for God sent me before you to preserve life." He embraced them one by one, his brothers sobbing on his shoulders. Later, when Jacob heard that Joseph was alive, his heart fainted, but revived with joy. The old man journeyed to Egypt, and there, under the shade of palm trees, he beheld his long-lost son. Father and son wept upon each other's necks, and Joseph vowed to care for his family as long as he lived. Years passed. The famine ended. Egypt prospered. Joseph became a legend, not just in Egypt, but in all lands. Yet he never forgot the lessons of the pit, the prison, or the palace. He knew that the path of destiny is often paved with pain. Before his death, Joseph spoke to his brothers and said, "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to save many alive." And with that, the dreamer's life came full circle. Joseph's story is not just history. It's a mirror of divine purpose. It reminds us that betrayal cannot stop destiny, that delay is not denial, and that when God gives you a dream, no pit, no prison, and no Pharaoh can stop it. So whatever you're facing right now, remember Joseph. Remember that every pain, every tear, every rejection may be shaping you for a throne you can't yet see. Hold on to your dream. Keep your faith alive, because the God who lifted Joseph will lift you too. If you believe that God will turn every situation around for your good, don't leave without showing your support. Like this video to help more people discover God's Word. Comment below what lesson Joseph's journey taught you. Your testimony might inspire someone else. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another faith-filled story. Share this video with friends and family, because someone out there needs this reminder today. Your pit is not your end. It's the beginning of your rise.